Hi guys, it's JT here. I just wanted to explain a few things in a quick video that sort of summarise the book so you can get a bit of a heads up of what's in it and also maybe better understand some of the stuff that's in it. And I also just wanted to explain how things work and show you physically so that when you're reading it and seeing pictures it sort of makes a little bit more sense. So the first thing I want to sort of talk about is what is the key to fixing patellar tendonitis, and depending sort of how it's caused, the main principles are kind of the same. So the first thing you need to do to fix it is to move better, okay? So you need to move optimally using the correct muscles at the correct time, okay? And sort of deload the quadriceps tendon, which leads down through the patella and into the patellar tendon. So the first thing is better movement, and that's what the crux of the book is about, but there's also more to it than that, and I'll go into more detail on that very soon. The next thing is belief. You've got to believe that it's going to get better. Now that might sound a bit airy-fairy or wishy-washy, and people don't quite get it, but a lot of people always told me that you've got to, for the injury to heal, you've got to believe that it's going to heal, and you've got to believe that it's getting better. And I'd wake up every day in pain. I'd be like, well, it's not getting better, so I don't believe it's sort of going to get better. And the book explains how to do that, and again, I'll go into more detail in that soon. And then the next thing is your lifestyle. So if you don't move terribly well, okay, but you come into the gym for an hour a day and you move awesome, then it's still not going to work. You're not going to heal. So when you're out in public, if you're, you're jumping up on a step or even walking upstairs, but you're doing it incorrectly, then your knee's still going to be taking the load and not really working. Also, with incorporating the lifestyle change is eating better as well. So low inflammation foods and just good quality food, so you've got good quality nutrients to heal your tendon. So those are the sort of three main things. It's movement, it's belief, and it's a better lifestyle. And the lifestyle one is probably the most important, because when you adopt a better lifestyle, you adopt good beliefs and you adopt better movement. Moving on from those things, in the book I talk a lot about healing through positive emotion and frequencies, and that's going to catch a lot of people off guard, and a lot of people aren't going to sort of resonate with it, which is fine. Hopefully I can plant a seed and you can start to understand it, but there is a big picture to this world, and modern medicine doesn't cater for sort of the metaphysical, the stuff you can't sort of see and touch. So when you read about the whole frequencies thing, you don't have to take it all on straight away, but just know that there's some truth behind it. And by having positive emotions, which can put you in a positive frequency, is going to help your body vibrate better to heal, okay? But like I said, if you don't get it, that's cool. Just take it with a grain of salt and just understand that it's there. And the last thing is practice. You just got to keep practicing better quality movement, better lifestyles, and those beliefs. Alrighty, now let's go into a little bit of detail. So when it comes to the movement, like I said, you want to load the optimal muscle at the optimal time. It really is simple once you get it right, because it crosses over to every movement. Okie dokie. So whether you're jumping, you're squatting, you're pulling something from the ground, it doesn't matter. You're still fundamentally doing the same thing. Whether you're landing, whether you're jumping off of something, whether you're lunging, everything's kind of the same. So once you get it, it'll cross over to all the rest of those movements a lot better. Okay, so if we just have a quick look, the main things I'll talk about for all movements is hip control, pelvis control, and stability. So that is the ability to stabilize your hips, okay? So you've got, your pubic bone and you're pulling it up. So you've got that anterior pelvic tilt, and then you're coming back and you've got posterior pelvic tilt. So we need to be able to control that well and keep it neutral throughout the movements, okay? So that's the first thing, is that the hip position. Cool. The next thing I'll talk a lot about is femoral stability. So this is your femur, and it can come in, it can come out, it can sort of translate forward and backwards. And so if we can stabilize our femur, we're going to have a lot less movement in through the knee and a lot less pressure going through that patellar tendon. Okay, so that's the next thing, and that's controlled primarily by the sort of glutes and the hip flexor. Alrighty, they're the ones I want you to sort of think about. stabilizing the femur. Next up is your knee, okay, and the fact that it shouldn't be taking load, it should be primarily a pivot point. So what that means is, if you're looking at like a lunge, the knee shouldn't be translating forward, okay? You want to pretend that there's a steel rod going through your knee, and it is literally the pivot point, okay? If it's translating forwards and backwards, no good. It should be bolted into the wall, and that becomes the point in which you pivot from. Same as a squat, you want to sort of pretend that there's a steel rod through your knees, and they become the pivot point for the squat, okay? Not like you'll see a lot of people where there's no actual pivot point, you're actually loading through the knees, okay? Along with the knee becoming a pivot point is also keeping your shins vertical. Now I know a lot of people don't keep their shins vertical, and you don't have to, okay? But if you don't have good control of the hips and sort of the femur, the further you can keep your shins vertical, the better, okay? As you get better at keeping the tension and the stability through the hip, then you can let your knees come forward a little bit, because you're not going to be loading the knees. They might be forward, but the tension's going to be pulling backwards. So what I mean by that is, if I'm loading my knees forward, it's going to look like this, okay? The load's going down and into my knees. If my knees sit forward, but there's still a pivot point, then the load is going backwards, okay, into my hips, even though the knees are forward. So hopefully that makes sense. You want to keep your shins as vertical as possible. So this is how you should be practicing the squat. Vertical shins, knees are the pivot point, and then eventually when you get better, you will be able to, I don't know if it's catch a squat or a clean or something, with your knees forward, boom, but the tension will still be back into the hips, okay? So you're not loading your knees. So that's pretty much the movement. That's the nuts and bolts of movement and how that's going to help. Next up is beliefs. And this is one I really struggled with. People kept telling me, you've got to want it to get better, you know, and I kept going, I freaking do want it to get better, but it just wasn't getting better. I had this emotional connection to my knee, okay, negative emotional connection to my knee. I had really big goals, and I wanted them so badly, and this was just holding me back. Like, I could not train how I needed to train to excel. I still did well, and you know, I'm happy how I did, but it was just, it ripped at my heartstrings. Like, my goal was torn away from me, and that there was the problem. The knee wasn't the problem. The fact that I was just getting so dark and twisted, that my knee was the problem, kept my knee the problem. Alrighty, so you can see how I had that connection, like, come on knee, get better. It's just not gonna get better. So when I talk about beliefs, I mean that you have to know that it is going to get better. It is, it absolutely is. It's just going to take time and practice, like I've said before. And you've got to, this might sound funny as well, but you've got to not expect it to get better. You've got to know that it will, but don't have any expectation. Hey, if it gets better next week, it's next week. If it gets better next year, it's next year. Don't have that tension and stress about getting it better. I need to compete. I need to do this, I need to do that, because that will keep you negatively connected to your knee. You need to go, kind of put your trust in it, like, it's gonna get better, of course it is. It's like a minor injury, it's got everything it needs to get better, I've got the correct technique and movements happening now, it's just a matter of time, okay? And I promise you it will. It's for me it was 5 years of just hell, and boom, now I've seen the light. And biggest thing that held me back was my beliefs, my belief system, and my negative emotional connection to the knee. So get rid of any stress or pressure, like that you want it to get better, even though I know you do, but just know that it will, and sort of disengage, work on your technique. And another good thing to do is work on other areas of life. So if training is your be-all and end-all, but this is causing you utmost grief, you probably just need to take a break for a little bit, or just do some other form of training, like focus your goals elsewhere, and you'll find that you sort of forget about your knee, and you just let it recover. Cool? So that's what I mean about beliefs and believing your knee's gonna get better. Know that it will, but don't put pressure on it too, otherwise you're gonna have that negative attachment to it. Cool, so that's movement, beliefs, and the lifestyle. So when I mean lifestyle, I mean eat well, and that's eat clean. The book goes into nutrition a little bit, roughly how I do it. There are some definite good foods to have to help with inflammation and to help with recovery, so that's all in there. But make sure your whole lifestyle is conducive to it. So that's with your positive thinking, with your attitude it's not just about this healing, it's everything. If you can be positive to people, if you can give, if you can be a loving person, I promise you that it's going to come back and it's going to help your knee. So you want to have a lifestyle of, you know, gratitude, happiness, joy, love, and all those positive emotions are going to help you heal. And the other thing is movement. So in your lifestyle, if you, like I've said before, if you spend an hour in the gym and move perfectly, but then the other 23 hours of the day you're a sloppy mess, it ain't going to get better. So when you walk upstairs or downstairs, walk properly, you know, try and load up here, don't let the knee translate forward. When you pick things up off the ground, like all the time I used to just be sloppy, down I'd go. Now when I pick stuff up, it's, you know, a proper movement. And that alone, just moving for the other 23 hours of the day, okay, apart from sleeping, that's practice. And the biggest thing is practice, practice, practice. Practice doing it properly. And that's what it is. So when you're outside of the gym, even then practice. When you're hinging from the hips, practice properly. You know, when you're squatting down, when you're sitting on the toilet, that's all time for you to practice better movement and get your knee better. So it all becomes second nature. And then when you come in the gym for that 1 hour, you've already done your practice for the other 23 hours. Like, you're just going to start moving like a legend and it's going to get better quickly. Cool. That pretty much sums it all up. Yeah? Move better, believe, positive belief, make a positive lifestyle change, okay? And then just practice, practice, practice until it gets better, and it will get better, and you'll be able to continue with all of your goals. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this video, and yeah, I hope you enjoy reading the book if you haven't already, and if you have, I hope you've enjoyed reading it, and I would love to hear your comments. Thank you very much.